My name's Claire Osborn, and I'm a Metro reporter with the Austin American-Statesman. This story is about a man, and he received a life sentence in Williamson County for possession of a controlled substance, but that sentence was increased to life because he had already been convicted of a Dallas burglary. And what happens is that he goes on the lam for 20 years, and authorities catch him in 2006 and bring him back and convict him to life again. He gets in prison and he says, wait a minute, I've got these records that prove I was actually in prison in Arkansas when this Dallas burglary happened, so therefore you can't give me a life sentence. You've got to let me out of jail now. And so I became interested in trying to find more records that would prove that he was in jail in Arkansas when the burglary happened in Dallas. I found some records that proved that he was in jail in Arkansas on April 9th, 1975, when this burglary in Dallas was supposed to happen. I got records from the Arkansas Department of Corrections which showed his mugshot, which included identifying information like his social security number, and showed his criminal record, and there was a certificate that showed when he was discharged from the Arkansas prison, and another piece of paper that showed when he was taken to a county jail. I drove to Huntsville February 11th with a Statesman photographer. It took us about 3 hours, and I was wondering the whole time what Mr. Branch would tell me about his life, how he grew up, how he slid into a life of crime, because he was convicted of a lot of crimes, what he was doing when he was on the lam for 20 years, why he decided that to file his own appeals, because he did a lot of that, and how he thought he could prove his innocence. And I was also a little bit curious about how he communicated, because he lost most of his throat due to cancer and he had a voice box. So I didn't know how well I would be able to understand him. Mr. Branch was a little surprising because he wasn't surprised that we were there, or he wasn't that excited. And I asked him, why aren't you excited? Because when I first got there, I put up these documents right up next to the glass pane where we had to interview him through, and I said, I found these documents that you don't have that prove that you were in this prison, or seem to prove it.
Right.
And he just went,
I made up some questions to ask you. I thought we could kind of start at the beginning.
All right.
So where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Louisiana.
In Midland?
Midland, M-I-N-D.
Okay, just 1 minute.
I think Mr. Branch was taking advantage of a typographical error that occurred on 2 court documents. And one was the indictment for the burglary in Dallas, and one was the sentencing. And they both said that the crime happened on April 9th, 1975. But it turned out that that was a typo, because the arrest record said it didn't happen on April 9th, 1975. It happened on June 9th, 1975. And therefore, Mr. Branch's argument that he was in prison when the burglary happened in Dallas wasn't plausible anymore, because he was released from prison by June 4th. So he could have been in the area where the burglary happened by June 9th. So this story all came down to him trying to take advantage of a typo in some court documents. Well, at first I was pretty shocked, and I called my editor and I said, hey, guess what? We've been conned. And I felt so stupid. And then I started thinking back on the interview and thinking, well, you know what, Mr. Branch just didn't have a whole lot to say. So the story is over. It's a sort of a story about a man who is really good at getting out of things, but at the same time kind of not so smart after all, because he kept on getting in trouble in his life ever since he was 17 years old. So.